Welcome, everybody. We're going to take about a minute and just kind of let everyone get in, and then we'll get started. All right. Starting to see everybody coming on. Thank you for joining us, friends. We have a lot of content to cover today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. You're probably wondering who the new face is. Shay is not able to be here today, but she has me covering here, and I'm excited to see you all. I am Kim Tumumbing from Parsec Education. Thank you for joining us this wonderful Wednesday for our webinar series. We're very excited to see you all. I see a couple familiar names, so welcome back. And for those of you who are new, it's great to have you here. As you all know, every week we carve out this 30-minute space to connect, learn, and share what's working in schools and districts across the state. And whether you're tuning in from your office, your classroom, or in between meetings, we appreciate you taking the time to be here. Our goal, as always, is simple. We hope that you hear something that sparks a new idea. We want you to walk away with one practical takeaway today and maybe make a meaningful connection along the way. So please feel free to keep your cameras on and join your coworkers, friends, and new people in the chat. Make connections, ask questions. We are all about the interactive here because that's how we learn. So we're excited to have you. If you guys remember, last week we had our harmful language series. We do this webinar every week, but you can always catch up on them online by clicking the link that Robert's going to put in the chat for us. Our harmful language series is going to have our third installment coming up here in November, talking about what changes in a classroom when we move our language from negative connotation to positive connotation. So we're exceptionally excited to finish that series off. We've had a great time with Dr. Angie Barfield talking about it. And next week's series, we're going to move on from harmful language and talk about the mid-year LCAP. So Ryan Royer will be joining us then to talk about the mid-year LCAP next week. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you'll come back for that one next week. If you've missed any along the way or you need to register, there will also be a link in the chat for that. We did change the Zoom link just slightly so that you don't get constant email reminders. Thank you for all the feedback on that, our attendees. We appreciate it. And if you're interested in co-hosting a future webinar with us, please feel free to drop something in the chat, or there is a link that Robert will drop there that you can let us know. All right, guys, with all of that having been said, today's amazing webinar is about telling a powerful narrative for charter renewal. And we are so excited to welcome Hillary and Kristen. Hillary is from Julian Charter School and Kristen is from Charter School Management Corporation. And I would love if you ladies would take just a minute and introduce yourselves.
Sure, I can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Hillary Gaddis, and I am the Accountability Coordinator for the JCS family of charter schools.
Thanks, Hillary. And I'm Kristen Nowak. I'm the Executive Vice President of Strategic Management for CSMC. We are a back office provider, and we have been partnering with Julian Charter School forever. And I am actually Julian's school business manager. So Hillary and I am the executive director, and the leadership team have been partnering because Julian has 4 of their 6 charters up for renewal this cycle. So this is a very relevant topic for us right now.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We're so excited to offer this webinar to all of our amazing friends in Parsec land who we know are going through this cycle as well. I just was at CSDC a few weeks ago, and I think I talked to 10 more partners who each have 1 or more charter schools coming up. So this is very timely, and your knowledge is really going to empower them. So thank you for being willing to share. We're going to talk through 3 different things today. First, we're going to talk through how a charter system, Julian in particular, approached their charter renewal and what data they learned and how they told their story. And then Hillary's going to wrap up with some learning and takeaways to take back to your schools. Our goal today is to make charter renewal feel more approachable. So if you're taking notes, please feel free to, again, ask questions in the chat, friends. We want this to be a process that you start to feel more comfortable with. Renewal doesn't have to be something you just kind of survive. every time you have to do it. You can turn something you can plan for and tell your story through. And whether you're a data person or a storyteller, the goal is to see how both of them can come together in a process that supports your school and shows the real you to your authorizers. So let's get started. Today's discussion, we want to talk about why renewal requires more than good intentions. So charter renewal isn't guaranteed. We all know this. Schools must show progress, alignment with goals, and student impact. This is really important. That's a through line that you have to show. It can often feel very burdensome, but we know that prep work removes that pressure. And so part of today is helping you build in that prep work to alleviate some of that pressure, friends. Data is often messy or misaligned with what your authorizers are asking for. How many of you, show of hands, have had an authorizer ask for you to massage it because they don't know what your data is telling them? They want you to put it in terms they understand, not terms that we typically use for our internal use. And so that's something that can be very difficult that we need to overcome or work with them on. And that's where having a great relationship with your authorizer, or at least a transparent one, really comes into play. And of course, our schools need to be ready with both numbers and the narrative, because numbers can kind of show you something, but a narrative really tells the whole story. So with that, I want to hand it off to Kristen to keep us going.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, and so some of the things, Hillary's going to get into the narrative and the story and how really Parsec has helped leverage Julian's data to be able to find these real success stories to highlight. But in addition to that, I'm the boring person that says, hey, don't forget about the actual charter petition requirements, right? So 3-year budget forecast. If you're high performing, they might even ask for the 5-year budget so that they can actually give you that kind of renewal time period, which would be lovely. You want to make sure that really has realistic assumptions built in. A tip that you might want to consider is looking at like an SSC dartboard for their cost of living adjustment, baking that into your, multi-year projection, considering maybe if you're showing enrollment growth over those 3 or 5 years, that maybe perhaps you're also considering a scaled increase in those payroll related costs, because your authorizer is going to say, hey, if you're going to grow, 25%, really? You're going to do it with the same teachers you have? Yeah, I mean, that's not realistic. So as Hillary knows, and everybody who works with me knows, I'm mean. So I make you do the things. I want you to be conservative. We want you to put in front of your authorizer a very realistic and defensible multi-year projection. Those enrollment trends. If you're going to say, I'm going to grow 25%, boy, you better have some waitlist data. You better have some, we've employed this enrollment marketing group. We're seeing these kind of click through. You need to justify those enrollment trends. Cash flow, right? Solvency. Everybody knows, I'm assuming everybody here is an experienced charter leader. You don't get paid 1/12 of your money every month, and you don't incur 1/12 of your expenses every month. There are always those 3, 4, even 5 months in the middle, like kind of starting now until February or March, where you are outspending the revenues that are coming in. It's really, really important to be able to demonstrate across all 3 or 5 years of this charter petition budget that you are cash flow positive, and or you have a plan in place to help bridge whatever cash flow shortfalls you might have. If you are a non-classroom based school, it is also important for your funding determination results. Your authorizer is going to want to know if you had to rely on mitigating circumstances, or if you are in fact spending every dollar on instructional related and instructional certificated staffing in the appropriate ratios. If it is a mitigating factor, you probably want to explain a little bit more why that was one time in nature, and demonstrate that going forward, the budget projections you're putting in place will in fact be meeting those funding determination targets. And then obviously the disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even pretend to play one on TV. Legal is your friend. I know, you guys, really, lawyers are your friends. I know they come at a high hourly rate, they are worth it. If ever there is the time to ensure that you have budgeted some extra legal costs, it's the year in which you will be going through charter renewal, really partnering with them. They are seeing the trends across all of these authorizers. They know what needs to be put in place. But I will also say this, at the end, it's your charter petition. So a lot of legal firms will say, hey, here's a Dropbox, drop everything. Here's a Google Drive, drop all your stuff in here. And they will craft your final thing. Please, 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 please take one final look, read every single word to make sure it really does demonstrate your best foot forward and put you in a place to have a successful outcome. So with that, I'm the boring person. Now, Hillary is going to tell you the fun stuff. Like I mentioned, 4 of the 6 Julian charters are up for renewal this year, and they do not even all have the same authorizer. So Hillary is going to let you all know and share the narrative on how she has helped lead the efforts.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Hillary Gaddis, and I am the accountability coordinator for the JCS family of charter schools. We are 6 LEAs in San Diego, serving students in San Diego, Riverside, and Orange County. And as mentioned before, 4 of our charters are up for renewal this year. Today, we're going to be focusing on JCS Pine Valley. So this is a charter that we are petitioning for renewal to our authorizer, which is Mountain Empire. And they are East County, San Diego, primarily families and students. And so this charter petition was originally approved in 2018. JCS has been around since the year 2000, but because of the Shasta versus Anderson court decision in 2015, we were required to change from one school with lots of programs throughout those 3 counties to 6 schools so that we could keep our site-based programs functional with local authorizers. And so we did that in 2018, and that's why JCS Pine Valley was approved in 2018. And then with different charter extensions through COVID, we are now finally up for renewal in 2026. So this year we're petitioning. All of our schools are independent study charter schools, but they can all look very different with population. And so I'll tell you about Pine Valley today and why we've selected this school to focus on when we're talking about charter renewal. It is a TK through 12 school, independent study charter school with a population of students that are full home study in grades TK through 12. And then they also have a campus in Pine Valley, California, that serves students in grades 6 through 12. And those students come 4 days a week to a campus to learn from credentialed teachers and then are homeschooled every Friday. Approximately 150 to 200 students attend this school. And so it's a small school in rural East County, San Diego, with approximately a 12-to-1 student to teacher ratio. So this graphic is taken from the Parsec dashboard that gives you a picture of our demographics. It's from 2024, the dashboard. You can see that we had approximately 150 students enrolled, about 40% socioeconomically disadvantaged, very small English learner population, 20% students with disabilities, and then small, homeless, and no foster youth last year enrolled in this school. Ethnicity-wise, here's the breakdown. So about 23% Hispanic, 70% white, with a little bit Filipino, American Indian, and 2 or more races mixed in there as well. And those pieces are important because we want to compare apples to apples when we're looking at renewal data and look at similar schools in student demographic makeup as well. And we'll get into that. So making a case for charter renewal. I will start by saying that based on the 23 and 24 dashboards, JCS Pine Valley is a middle performing charter school. And in part, this is because of the data, and in part, it's because of the demographics, the makeup, and the fact that we're a small school and we do not populate at least 2 student subgroups, which is one of the ways that a school can be considered for being a high-performing charter if you beat the state essentially with subgroups and overall, then you could be considered high-performing. JCS Pine Valley doesn't even qualify for that because we don't have enough students to populate the dashboard in at least 2 subgroups. So we are by default a middle performing charter school. And here's a picture of how our dashboard looks. All this information can be pulled from Parsec, but I created these tables just so we could really clearly see each school year that we're considering based on the dashboard 2023 and 2024 and JCS Pine Valley compared to the state of California. You can see the performance, and also you can see the performance color that the school received based on status and change. And so considering the all groups of students, JCS Pine Valley performs the same or better than the state on all of the indicators it populates on the 2023 and 2024 state dashboards. So looking at those colors, you'll see that if there's orange in the state of California, JCS Pine Valley also has earned orange for the academic indicators. So it's the same, similar patterns of status and change in the academic indicators for ELA and math. When it comes to the engagement indicators, JCS Pine Valley outperforms the state in many areas when looking at all students, specifically in suspension rate, and then the same or better in chronic absenteeism. And so based on that information, we will make the recommendation to our sponsoring charter that they should renew JCS Pine Valley for 5 years because the school outperformed the state in having lower chronic absenteeism suspension rates and for all pupil subgroups, and they're the same or higher for the academic indicators for all pupil subgroups. There's a lot of information in these slides, so I'm going to move pretty quickly, and they're here so that as you are preparing for charter renewal, you have these resources and you can see what kind of data we pulled, and consider pulling that for your student if it helps to tell the narrative you want to tell. This is also in our petition, and that we meet the local indicators. And so here's our narrative statement. Overall, JCS Pine Valley excels in behavior and attendance metric and meets the standards for all local metrics. Academic performance, especially math and ELA, fall below state averages, but demonstrate similar status and change patterns, earning the same performance color ratings. Continued efforts are needed to improve instructional quality and close academic gaps, even as positive trends in school climate are maintained nonetheless. As determined by law and the CDE, JCS Pine Valley meets the criterion for charter renewal for a term of 5 years because the school-wide performance level color ratings for 2023 and 2024 are the same or higher than the state. So that's our strong narrative case. As I mentioned, we are a middle performing charter school, and so we took the time and required to take the effort to really look at verified data, which includes CAS data and our NWA MAP data. And so one of the ways we've done this is through comparisons. And so this is pulled from Parsec, and you can see on the top of the slide, I've given you a navigation menu of where this graphic comes from. And the reason that this is important information for our charter authorizers is that JCS Pine Valley is outperforming the district of sponsorship. So Mountain Empire Unified School District we pull from the same students. We pull from very similar populations of students, and JCS Pine Valley is seeing stronger academic outcomes than Mountain Empire. regardless of the fact that the outcomes are not as strong as San Diego County or the state of California itself. But remembering that the status and change patterns are similar to California. And then this is another look at comparison, looking at similar schools. And so this is taken from the comparison tool within Parsec, the standard dashboard, and the ranking tool. So identifying that we wanted to look at schools that were similar to JCS Pine Valley, and those that formula is here on the screen. We looked at schools that served K through 12 students, had an enrollment of 100 to 200, had a similar population of students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged students and EL students. And so among that, Parsec helped us to find those schools and see where JCS Pine Valley ranked. And so among demographically similar schools in California, JCS Pine Valley ranks 4th out of 6 in ELA achievement in the 2024 dashboard and results. So kind of in the middle.
Hillary, I want to give you
Yes.
your 9-minute warning.
Thank you, 9. Additionally, looking at local school districts, I did a quick Google search of some local districts that I wanted to compare to. And this is all about, playing the game of constructing your narrative. It's like, if I don't like the data and that I see in one story, well, what's another story that I might try and tell? And does that data really help to highlight the important work that this charter school is doing? And so I wanted to say, okay, let's look at similar local school districts. And so looking at that, among school districts in East County, San Diego, JCS Pine Valley ranks 5 out of 9 in ELA achievement. Again, right smack dab in the middle. And so this is ELA comparison for K-12 schools in San Diego. So looking at a bigger picture, and JCS Pine Valley ranks 27 out of 42. So still pretty clearly in the middle. This is looking at math. We see similar outcomes with math, again, outperforming Mountain Empire. Looking at similar schools, we rank 4 out of 6 in math, just like ELA. And 5 out of 9 in math, just like ELA, for local schools and districts. And 23 out of 42 among K-12 schools in San Diego. So a little bit higher ranking there in math achievement for JCS Pine Valley. We're not going to do this interactive exercise right now, but if you are interested in taking your own school and doing this ranking exercise, I very clearly outlined how you would do that with graphics and arrows. So start by looking at similar schools based on demographics. I suggest that you look at the ranking of your school based on other local school districts as well. So take the time to do that and see if that tells a really nice story that can help you highlight the work that your school is doing. Some additional verified data. I'm going to go through this really quickly because I do want to show you something I did with qualitative data that I think is really powerful. So middle performing charter schools are required to make a case for renewal using verified data and also post-secondary outcomes. And so we did this with Parsec. We were able to look at our map data from on a cohort level to look at growth from fall to spring over the course of 3 years. And so overall, the data demonstrates annual growth in both reading and math from fall to spring. Each year we see better outcomes from fall to spring, which shows that JCS Pine Valley and the instructional practices are supporting student learning. When they come in the fall, they go out in the spring with higher student achievement according to their MAP scores. And then here is some information also about another way to look at the growth that students achieve based on NWA MAP data from fall to spring each year in the higher ranges of growth. And then here's some information about post-secondary outcomes. We have a very small population of students who graduate from our school each year. And so that is not populated on the school's dashboard, but we can access it through local systems. And so that is also included in our charter petition. And then remembering that, there's additional data out there that is not in the law that authorizers have to consider, but we wrote it into our petition because it strengthens our story. And that includes the growth dashboard. I can't spend too much time covering this, but it's really good stuff. So please come back and look at the slides so you can get a sense of, how you can tell a narrative using the growth dashboard, which your authorizers, it might not be important to them because it's not something that's outlined in the law as being used for charter renewal. But if you've got good outcomes, use it to beef up your story. And Pine Valley has some great outcomes, especially when it comes to closing equity gaps for students with disabilities. They rank like number one for growth outcomes based on the growth data. Sample size is something we considered too, and just the reality that part of JCS Pine Valley story is that we have a high rate of mobility. Or we have I'm sorry, that's coming next slide, but we have a small sample size, and that can sway data because just small group of students who test each year because the school is small. And contiguous enrollment can also impact it. We have a high rate of mobility. So sometimes we work with a very different population from year to year, and that can impact our data. I love percent toward proficient as a way of looking at growth and achievement. And this is something that Parsec does that I don't see any other data tool really using right now. But there's a great narrative here that really helps to illustrate that JCS Pine Valley students who stay with us long enough for at least, for 4 years are closer to proficient, 5% or in some cases in ELA, 11% closer to proficient than students who come in their first year. That's pretty powerful. Okay, so one additional thing I want to show you is that Parsec's got this really neat tool for collecting qualitative data called Parsec Real. It is not your average survey tool. It allows participants to answer questions with voice, with audio, and with text. And so we use Parsec Real to gather some qualitative data based on the important work that JCS Pine Valley is doing from the voices of the student, staff, and families. So here it is.
I feel like school is a community rather than just a place to learn. Whenever my teachers were giving me guidance, giving me like feedback, and whenever my friends would like help me and I didn't understand something, like teachers would sit down and like give me guidance on things that I didn't understand.
My favorite things about the school is that it's more like a traditional junior high with the classes that are offered and the extra classes like life skills, which back in the day was home economics. The boys are thoroughly enjoying this whole new school year. They wake up, they're ready to go. They made pizzas in their lifestyles. They are just learning so much more than they would if they were kept in the regular elementary school until 6th grade. It's just a blessing that we have PVA available to those students, and the class sizes are so much smaller. where they can get to know all students of every grade level. And yeah, they're just doing great.
Just another way to highlight the important work your school is doing. And with that said, this is the renewal recommendation we are making to the Mountain Empire Board of Education for a renewal of 5 years. And that will go before their board next month. We are over time, but I hope that this information has left you with things to think about, ideas for how you can help to construct a story, even if the data doesn't look as nice as you'd like it to look, how to tell a narrative and a story that really highlights the important work that your school is doing as you are petitioning for charter renewal. So I'll go ahead and hand back over to Kimberly. I know we're out of time.
No worries. We will hang around if you guys have questions, because I always want to make sure that questions have an opportunity to be heard or asked. So if you've got anything, please feel free to drop it in chat, come off of mute or something, raise your hand, let us know. We're happy to help. Hopefully you got a couple things to take away with you, friends. We love doing these kind of webinars, so I'm sure we'll see more in the future. And Hillary, you did a fantastic job. Wasn't she amazing, you guys? I love hearing that story. And of course, thank you, Kristen, for those practical pieces of information in the beginning, because sometimes we get lost in the numbers and the data, but we obviously need a focus point. So thank you for keeping us focused. We really appreciate it. If you guys already work with Parsec, all of these things are available to you. If you need assistance, please feel free to reach out to your learning integration specialist or your educational analyst. They would love to help you with your charter renewal process. It actually is something we very much enjoy supporting. We will see you all next Wednesday at 10 a.m. where we will join Ryan Royer again, talking about that mid-year LCAP, because that's another fun piece of compliance coming your way this fall, friends. But we've got tools to help you with that as well. So we hope to see you there. If you want to get a hold of us, our email is in the chat, but also if you want to get a hold of Kristen at CSMC, we have a slide for that. I'm not sure which direction, Hillary, if you want to go back to her slide though and put it up so everyone has that. And if you need any other further assistance, she's going to drop her email in the chat as well, friends. We're all here to support you. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate you. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.